and welcome to EZ Gluten-Free. Last week when I did those stuffing meatballs with my leftover stuffing, I promised to give you a quick tutorial of the version I did this year. Now for the huge batch of stuffing that I made, I used 2 loaves of EZ gluten-free white bread cut into tiny cubes and toasted on 2 baking sheets. I also mixed in 1/2 of the cast iron skillet cornbread that I showed you in another video, also cut into cubes and toasted in a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes on a 3rd baking sheet. Then I tossed all the cubes together with a stick of melted butter and 4 teaspoons each of both chicken bouillon powder and Bell's seasoning, which is a powdered blend of rosemary, oregano, sage, ginger, marjoram, thyme, and pepper. Then in a large skillet, crumble and brown 2 pounds of Italian sausage, and once it has good color, add 2 medium onions, 3 stalks of celery, and 2 apples, all chopped in about a 1/2-inch dice. Then while sauteing this all together, I added about a teaspoon more of the Bell's seasoning, salt, pepper, and a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes to offset the sweetness of the apples. Now once the veggies are wilted, add this whole mixture to the stuffing cubes. Toss to combine. Then I added 4 cups of chicken broth and refrigerated it overnight. The next day, stir, transfer to a very large casserole dish, dot the top with butter, and bake it for 45 minutes to an hour for an end result that's a delicious, moist stuffing with lots of crispy bits on top. And for my turkey, I prepped it with seasoned butter, both under the skin and over the whole surface. I also seasoned the cavity and stuffed it with an orange and onion before tying the feet and tucking the wings, then sprinkling over more seasonings. When this guy finished baking, I let it rest tented for an hour. Then I made a gravy with the pan drippings and carved the whole bird and brought it to the table with the light and dark meat separated. I also made a pineapple studded boneless ham because one of my sons hates turkey. And this just had a simple, spicy mustard, brown sugar, and ginger glaze. And when this was done, I sliced about half of it and spooned over some of the pan juice before bringing it to the table. Now for the sweet potatoes, I roasted about 7 pounds of potatoes. Then once cooled, peel and smash these guys and toss in 1/4 cup each of brown sugar, dark molasses, heavy cream, and melted butter. Sprinkle in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, then mix to combine and transfer to a casserole dish. Dot the top with a little more butter and some dark brown sugar. Then I refrigerated these overnight and baked them for 45 minutes to an hour. Now the mac and cheese is one of the only side dishes that I actually did on the holiday itself, so there's not much footage for this one. But I can tell you that I started with a gluten-free bechamel base, tossed in 3 cheeses, 1.5 pounds of Barilla gluten-free elbows, which hold up really well. Then I topped the decadent mac and cheese layer with a mixture of fresh gluten-free breadcrumbs, shredded cheddar, and almost 1 pound of crumbled bacon. And I did make the topping a day ahead of time. Now it just needs about 15 minutes in the oven or until the top looks crispy, and we can move on to the cranberries. Now for my cran applesauce, I sauteed 2 apples in a tablespoon of butter, then added 3 bags of fresh cranberries, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of orange juice, and 1/2 to 3/4 cup of sugar, which makes my version much tartar than the bag instructions, which actually call for 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of water for each of the 3 bags that I used. Now let it simmer for 5 or 10 minutes or until the cranberries all seem like they've popped. Then let it go another 3 minutes, and then it's done and can be refrigerated until you're ready to use it. And when you're putting together your Thanksgiving menu, you might also want to think about putting a few things out on the coffee table for people to snack on while you finish up the main event. I put out a small cheese board, some dried apricots and dates, some Italian salami, prosciutto and mozzarella. I also made a pepper jelly by stirring together about a 1/2 cup of apricot jam, a couple of tablespoons of sambal sauce, and about a 1/4 cup of pine nuts. Add a few nuts to the table, some crackers, olives, or anything else you can think of that your guests might want to pick on. And that about wraps up my Thanksgiving dinner, folks. I covered everything except the loaded mashed potatoes that my son's fiance brought over. She also made a pumpkin pie and an apple crumb pie that I heard were delicious, but they weren't gluten-free, so I skipped dessert this year. But if you happen to need a gluten-free dessert for your holiday, here's a few of the ones I've done that would fit right in. And if you need to print some copies of the recipes, you could always visit my blog at the link below. And for brand new recipes every week, don't forget to subscribe. See you again soon.